Hello and welcome back to the Growth Circle podcast. I am your host, Lincoln Amstutz, and have a very exciting interview today with a good friend of mine, Josh Manning. Josh is a co-founder of Two Guys Buying Homes and is a full-time real estate investor and developer with over 10 years of experience. Josh was born and raised here in Springfield, Missouri, and graduated from Missouri State with a degree in business. Josh went on to a successful career in construction management, and 3 years ago, Josh and his business partner founded Two Guys Buying Homes, growing their real estate portfolio to over $20 million in assets. Josh is a go-getter. It's exciting to see the growth in real estate the last few years and getting to know him as well as a friend. So I'm excited to introduce him. Josh, welcome to the podcast.
Yeah, thanks, man. I appreciate you having me.
Absolutely. Well, let's jump right in. Just even reading that bio, it gets me excited to have this conversation. As you know, hearing about what you've been doing in real estate, and even before that, can you take us back? You know, I gave that description of, you know, you're at 20 million in assets. You've come a long ways in the last few years. Where did you start with your professional career and just getting educated on how to go about what you're doing today?
Yeah, sure. So I guess it all goes back to college. You know, I got a business degree, like you said, from Missouri State. And during that time, I got an internship for a commercial construction job. Had no desire whatsoever to work there, to do the job. Didn't want anything to do with construction. Just needed that internship for my graduate degree. So got in there, and honestly, man, I just kind of fell in love with it. It was, I learned pretty quick that construction was not just like hammer and nails, especially when you get to the large, like commercial side of things. You know, you're dealing with architects and engineering and, you know, high level mathematics and trying to figure out how to put, you know, these large projects together, and then managing all kinds of different scopes of people and trades and all that kind of stuff. And so I ended up just kind of falling in love with that, man, and I did that for 10 years. And then we did a lot of, here in Springfield, we did a lot of multifamily and hospitality. So that's kind of always been my background, has been building apartment complexes, hotels. We even did Vantage downtown. So a lot of really cool, neat projects. So that's kind of what gave me my background for the construction. And then a few years ago, Evan, my business partner, had reached out and was wanting to just buy some rental properties for, you know, just for like retirement kind of thing, you know. And so his proposal was, you know, he'll handle finding the properties, vetting the deals. I would then run the developments and the construction side of things. We would refinance them, hold them, and then just use a property management company to, you know, to hold these properties. So that's what we started doing in July of 2020. We bought, it was like 7 or 8 that year. And then the next year we burned 50 houses. And then we've just, man, we haven't slowed down since.
Right, just been taking it off from there. It was definitely neat to see. I mean, obviously that's some crazy growth in a short amount of time, but it's due to the fact that you had this background in project management and in construction, and along with Evan, your partner's career in real estate on the retail side. How do you think being in the position you were with your previous company on the construction, how do you think that prepared you for what you're doing today? And give a little more insight into what you were doing there, how long you were in that company.
Yeah, so I worked there for 10 years. So it was really the only like real job that I had as an adult out of college. And so I started there as an intern, moved up as just like what they would call a project engineer. So you're kind of like paper pusher, you know, doing job submittals and things like that. And then moved to project manager, where then you were then managing, you know, the ins and outs, the day-to-day activities of all of the projects. So ordering material, or that you was out of the what's how I president. That was a completely different role. So that was then managing all of the employees, the direction of the company, the finances, just everything. And so really what it did is it prepared me to be a business leader, business owner. And it's really gave me the experience that I needed to step into this role that I'm in now, which has been huge for me. So that was kind of what I did there, and really like kind of gave me the tools and stuff that I needed to get two guys started.
And so I believe you did that. You were still part of that construction company for at least a year or more when you first got started in investing. Is that right?
Well, yeah, probably 2 years of it. Yeah, so I was doing that full time, and then doing the investing with Evan on the side. So yeah.
When you first got into it, did you see it as just that, like a part-time side hustle type of thing that you would add up some properties over time to a portfolio for a long-term investment? Or did you pretty quickly, realize that this could be something full-time? I mean, 2 years of doing both is quite a lot. I mean, when did that transition happen in your mind?
No, so when we first started it, I had absolutely no intentions of ever leaving the company. It was going to be the only job I ever had, right? Like big boy job, like I said. Never in a million years would I think that Evan and I would be sitting where we are now. Just the growth that we've had, how well it's went together, just all of it. I never would have fathomed that we would be where we are. So no, my intentions were not ever to do that. It just honestly, went really well. We cultivated a lot of really good relationships. We've got great employees, a great team. Evan and I work really well together. And so it just got to a point where it made sense. It was like, hey, it's costed me more money to have a W-2 than it would if I was full-time investing. And not just that, but there's a lot of, as being a business owner stuff, there's a lot of added benefits that comes from working from yourself. And so there was a lot of things, but I still have a good relationship with the company, and I still consult for them and do a lot of things. And they've really gave me the tools and education that I needed to kind of get to this point that we're at now.
Absolutely. Yeah. That's obviously a huge jump. Like you said, going from a company you're at for 10 years, you see yourself there for the long haul, and then going into something that's just, it's all you that you've created. I even know for myself on a much smaller scale, but, going to Missouri State for a year and then making the decision to drop out of school to pursue real estate investing full time. Anytime you're making that big shift of something that you saw going further, right? Whether it's school or a job, it's not, an easy transition. What advice would you give to anybody that, is in school but wanting to maybe switch it up, or they're at a job that they've been at potentially for years, but they think it's the right time, or they want to make a shift into maybe real estate investing or something similar? What would you say to them as far as the mindset to be at, or the place in your business to be at before making some sort of transition there?
Sure. I think there's a lot of things to look at for that. I think benefit that I had was that, I'm a little bit older than you, and the job that I had was a high paying W-2. So I don't have any like personal debt. So there was not like no personal debt, couple years of savings. Evan and I had, 80 houses or something like that at the time. So we had consistent revenue. I didn't need to make a bunch of money. I wasn't worried about like, hey, is this going to hurt me financially? I was like, hey, worst case scenario, I can always go back and get a job back in that industry, even back there, that would always be an option. So, but I think, a lot of things about like entrepreneurship and starting your own business and really what it all comes down to is for me is that although I love that job, I've always kind of had that like that inner desire to be a business owner, to like do my own thing, to have control for it. And so, as cliche as it sounds, I think like, for somebody that's struggling with do I do the 9 to 5 or do I do this? Like, I think following something that you're passionate about is the key. You know, it's I don't make as much money now as I did at the W-2, but I enjoy this. I'm happy. I would do this for free, like for real. Like, I mean, the day-to-day activities, the building the buildings, the running the company, the working with the guys, the working with, like, you know, with you and just all the other investor stuff, man, I love that. Like, I absolutely love it. And so it just comes down to like, it doesn't feel like work. And so I think if there's people out there that are, you know, punching a time clock that for a job that they hate and, or, you know, going to school for a degree that, you know, may not matter, if there's something that you're just like, you know, you can feel it inside, like, hey, I'm going to enjoy doing this. I don't care about the money. I think that's where something really spectacular can happen.
Right. Yeah, no, I think that's really cool to hear, because you obviously enjoyed what you were doing, but at a certain point, it just made sense to transition into this because of how much you had going on, how much you were doing in real estate. And not only that, but you knew it's something you enjoyed and that you could see yourself doing longer term. So I know that as you got into this, you know, full time, you know, leaving, you know, the W-2, things blew up even faster than, you know, they had been going, which was already a pretty quick pace. I mean, can you, before we even get into that, give me a little insight into those first few deals? What did those look like? Where did you, you know, find these deals? Where did you get the funding? How did you know this BRRRR strategy of buying, fixing up, and refinancing? How did that, you know, really start on the first few deals there?
Yeah. So to start with, I'd never even heard the term BRRRR when we got into this. I knew nothing about real estate investing. My parents owned rentals growing up, but they always bought turnkey stuff. You know, and it was nothing like what we do now, right? So the first deal we bought was on 920 North Warren. We bought it from Andrew Newland and bought it, went in and completely redid everything. Knocked down some walls, added a bathroom, did all this stuff. Did it obviously while working a full-time job. Evan knew Andrew. I never met Andrew before. So Andrew showed us a couple homes. I ran the numbers on it. And said, hey, we could buy it for this, fix it up for this. Evan said it's going to be worth this. Kind of knew, you know, where we needed to be on it. He had a relationship with a hard money lender, and so we reached out and met with her. Kind of got set up on that deal and bought that first deal. We bought it, renovated it, refinanced it, and I think the bank gave us $20,000 or something like that, and we did it in like 8 weeks, something like that. And I was like, holy crap, you know, like, we just bought this house without our money. We paid this real estate investor back. We're at like a 75% LTV on this property. We've got a renter paying the mortgage taxes and insurance on it, and I just put $20,000 in our pocket, you know. And it was just like a light blew off where I went, this is unreal. Like, there's no other avenue that I could ever think of that you could make money doing this. So then it was just like, Evan, this works. Like, how can we scale this? How can we continue to do this? So then we bought, I think, 2 more right after Warren immediately, and just kind of scaled up that way. So, and then to kind of scroll back to that, Evan and I did, like, we met, we talked about it. We had a really good friend that was a banker. I met with the banker and had him, like, explain to us how the underwriting process would work. So, like, hey, what do these properties have to perform for it to be a no-brainer for you to refinance this? So I learned that process, and then honestly, we just jumped in. Like, from the time that Evan and I shook hands and said we're going to do it, from the time we bought that first house, it was like 2 or 3 weeks. So we didn't wait. We just said, okay, let's try it. Let's do it. Let's make it work. And it did. And now we've done hundreds of them together.
I think that's cool how, yeah, it didn't take long. Like, you saw, you know, you found the deal, the numbers made sense, and you just kind of jumped right in. Can you go into a little bit? I know you've mentioned Evan and, being your partner a few times, how, your relationship, how that started, and then you even complimented on, or, touched on, you're running the numbers on the rehab, right? That's your expertise on the construction side. He's running the numbers on what is this going to be worth, the ARV, and you're kind of, putting the financing together with one another. How do you guys complement each other in, your business relationship, and even, your willingness to get into a partnership? Touch on that versus, doing this all on your own, and your relationship with Evan and these deals.
Yeah, absolutely. So our kind of partnership started because Evan had put on a kind of like a seminar where he was wanting to teach like the average person how to do like the BRRRR strategy, right? And so with him being a realtor, his thought process was, he could be the realtor on the front end and the back end. He kind of specializes in investor only kind of deals. So, he'll sell 125 to 150 homes a year, but most of the time they are flips from other investors. So he's not a whole lot on the retail side of things. So because I was in business and I was leading this company, he had asked me to come out and I've known Evan since we were in like 10th grade or 9th grade, something like that. And so he had asked me to come out and just like, he wanted to run through a trial run on this deal. So he brought in a bunch of people, bought lunch. There was like 30 or 40 of us that listened to this pitch and his whole idea. And then I called him afterwards and said, hey, explain this some more. Like, what do you mean you can buy these properties without putting money into the deal and how all that works? And he kind of explained it a little bit. And I was like, huh. And then he reached out a couple of days later and said, well, what if we partner and we do this together? And I was like, okay. And so we explored that, and we just kind of made kind of an agreement that he handles the real estate side of things. I'll handle the construction and the finances, because that's kind of my background. We'll stay out of each other's ways, let each other do what we're good at, and just work together on doing these properties, and so the thing about Evan and I is that if you're ever in our office, it's kind of weird because we really don't communicate a whole lot with each other. He is jam-packed running all day long, as am I. And I think the biggest thing with our partnership is that Evan and I align a lot morally and ethically. And so like, there's not ever like any kind of like trust issues or things like that. And so we just like, I don't have to worry about what he's doing. He doesn't have to worry about what I do. And we just come together a couple times a week, go over, hey, finances and what we're doing and where the company's at and that kind of stuff. And then we break and we just go on. So, I mean, partnerships are tough, but I don't think I could have I got lucky in the partnership that we have, and because they can be, they can kill a company, and so having that partnership though has allowed us to really have exponential growth because it allows both of us to focus on what we're good at. And then to also, just man, when I'm busy and I need help on something, he's there, and vice versa, Granted, now we have an office staff, so it really helps help us if we're really busy. So
for sure. No, it's neat to hear and even see how it's gone about, because I've even partnered with people on deals, but oftentimes it's either been a silent partner or, a short-term thing, versus you all, like you're growing this company together, and, you're doing all of these different, deals and growing a portfolio with one another. And I think what you touched on there, like you're morally and ethically, you're aligned, right, on some of these core things. So, there's not going to be issues there. And as well as, just again, your skill sets, you focus on what you're good at. You both are bringing that to the table and making deals happen. And I mean, it makes sense with the growth you had. I remember when the first house I sold to you, wholesale, I believe is that one up on North, in Springfield or Nora, somewhere up there. And I remember walking in with you guys. It was late at night. It was dark. We could hardly see it, but we had our phone flashlights looking around in there. And you literally took like 7-8 minutes with Evan, looked at it, you turned to me, you're like, what are you asking for it? I was like, oh, I think it was like 32,000 something. You're like, yeah, we'll take it. We'll take it. And I was like, really? Like no negotiation, nothing? No, you don't need to run some numbers at home. You're just, no, we'll take it. And I think it's just because you guys were confident in your numbers, you know what you were doing. And I thought that was pretty neat, just seeing how quick you're able to make the decision. And I mean, you have to if you're going to be doing, what would you say, 50 that following year?
Well, and I think that's a lot of it, man, is that, before we go look into a property, I mean, Evan's already given me ARV, and especially now because we've done so many of them, I pretty much know kind of based on square foot what something's going to cost. And when I go to look at a property, I'm really more looking like, are there major structural issues? Are there, am I going to have foundation problems? Am I going to have, unforeseen things that maybe like as a wholesaler walks through, it's not going to really notice as much as like I am, because we're going to dig into it. And burns too difficult because we gut everything. And when you get full guts, you don't know what you're getting into. But we've kind of refined that process, and, and that's really, really, I think, helped us. And so when we come and look at them, man, we already kind of know where we need to be. For us, a lot of things are relationship. We want to build good relationships like we have with you. And it's like, at the end of the day, man, to buy a house from you from 32 to buy it from you for 30 is, if $2,000 is going to make and break that deal, I don't want to do the deal to begin with, So we want it to be win-win scenarios for everybody. And I think that's a lot of it too, man, is that we've because of how we've operated in business, we have lots of good relationships. And so we get to see a lot of deals, I think, before other people get to see deals, which has allowed us to buy more stuff and has allowed us to have that growth, Because I think back there when we were first starting out, man, I mean, there was a time period where I think we bought almost every deal that you brought. I mean, there was a slew there where we were buying everything that you could find.
Oh, absolutely. I remember 2021, I was doing quite a few, wholesales at that time, a lot of deals coming through, but I would just literally send you a message over text or quick email with the details. And it was almost like a given, like, yeah, this is going to be another deal for Josh and Evan. They're going to take this down. And it was quite often there.
Yeah, it was great, man. I mean, yeah, and those are the kind of relationships that we want to have. What's great about it is like you got to where you're like, I know the price point they need to be. I know the rehabs that they want to have. I know the areas they want to be in. And if it falls into that, they're most likely going to buy it. Right. And we got to where like we never had any deals with you that were sour, that were bad. And so it was like, we just got to like, hey, we can trust Lincoln. Lincoln send us these deals. We even got to where like we weren't even going to look at them. It was just like, hey, yeah, Lincoln says it's a good deal. Here's the pictures. The numbers make sense. Let's just buy it and roll on. We don't do that anymore. But we went for a while where we weren't even looking at properties. We were just buying them sight unseen.
Well, that's the power again of having a good network, having people that you trust, and building good relationships with. Because yeah, you could have come in either with myself or Andrew, these other off-market type of properties wholesalers, and negotiated every single time, trying to get it for the absolute lowest. But then, how motivated are we going to be to come back to you for those deals, to be our first guy, our first call, when, it's just not this smooth transaction. So there's definitely something to building that trust, establishing those connections of knowing what you're looking for, and what we're selling. And that leads towards growth. So I'm curious to hear, we kind of talked about this initial phase of getting into these rental properties that you were keeping. One, were you keeping all of these? And also, where did this growth lead to, over the first couple, 2-3 years, and then to the creation of two guys buying homes? What was that process like?
Sure. So we've always been fix and hold guys, not fix and flip. If it was up to me, we would never sell a property ever. I truly believe that long-term net worth is built through holding properties. I'm not really like a lot of guys out there right now probably will always have more cash and capital than Evan and I, because we are always reinvesting and buying properties and growing that portfolio. So that's always kind of been our goal. But we have sold in 20, I don't remember the year, last year I think it was. We sold like 60 houses. So we sold a package of almost 50 to another local investor. Actually, we sold like 70 houses. So we broke off a big package deal to raise some capital to do some different asset class investments. And so we've built in the process of building a 260 unit storage facility on the south side of town. We've got the first phase pretty much wrapped up. The second phase is getting ready to break ground. And then we have 3 apartment complexes that we're in the development phase of, as well as a small little neighborhood of 12 duplexes. So what we've kind of shifted gears a little bit. We still, I mean, looking at my board, I've got 9 burrs going right now. But we're sold off a bunch in order to kind of do some more developments. And that's kind of my end goal. That's what I really like. I want to do the development. So the multifamily, the storage, that's really where I see myself moving into the future. We'll still always do burrs, but we're going to really focus heavily the next couple of years on new builds, and just kind of developing here around town.
I'm with you. I like buying and holding. If I'm going to fix something up, generally I would much rather hold on to this long term, just because you do see that long term benefit of the appreciation and the loan pay down, rent collection, tax benefits, all these things that we know about. Yeah, I know you're on that same page, but of course you did sell those properties in order to get to a different asset class. What was the main decision making behind that? Of selling those properties and to get into something else versus going out and raising a bunch of money in order to get those, or why, what was your thought process at that time of making that decision to sell?
Yeah, so I think it was kind of, there was a lot of factors that played into it. At the time, we had an outside management company that we were not very happy with. And so we were kind of in the process of bringing in someone to manage in-house our portfolio. And at that time we were probably 120 or 130 doors, single family at that time was all we had. And we just wasn't happy with the property management. And so the thought process was to take the houses that we had burred, along with some houses we bought in a package deal that were not the greatest, package them together, sell off, to make the transition on hiring somebody easier to come in and not have 130 doors, but maybe have half of that, 60, 70 doors to manage, and then to have the capital to move into these investments, because we didn't want to bring in outside investors. That was, at that point, that was not something we really wanted to do. We have some investors on some other bigger projects that we have going now, just because I don't want to have to go back and sell another 60 or 70 homes in order to raise the capital to do it again. So that was the kind of the thought process. It was kind of we had a lot of growth. It was scale back, stabilize, get our policies, procedures, processes in order, to be able to manage our portfolio, raise some capital, move into some better asset classes, and then to grow again. And that's what we've done. So now, we do property management in-house. So we have a full staff that does that. Property manager, a leasing agent, maintenance coordinators. We've got all of the staff in the field to do maintenance and repairs and all that. And so we're managing not only our portfolio, but now we're also managing outside doors for other investors. And so it's been great. It's been an awesome addition to our company. And so that's kind of a long answer, but that's kind of what brought us to that decision to sell.
Sure. Because of course, in real estate investing in any business, you've got to be willing to be flexible and adjust. And because you can have these ideas of where you see it going, but then maybe it's a market shift, or maybe it's, different asset class that you're looking to get into. You got to be willing to, make a change and adjust from time to time. And I was even actually interviewing Michael Thomas here recently, and he made a similar statement that, he is also almost stepping back or pulling back in a way to a certain degree so that he can stabilize, get systems and processes in place, and then launch forward to a greater speed and extent than he could if he just tried to keep, incrementally throwing it on. So that it makes complete sense of sometimes you just have to, in your case, sell off some properties in order to get into something better, which sounds like it allowed you to get into this property management. It allowed you to start doing some of the development you wanted to do.
Exactly. That was the goal, is that we wanted to develop, and we also wanted to, I have done this professionally for other people, but I'd never done it as the owner, developer, GC. And so, we wanted to risk our own capital and our own time and stuff like that in these developments before, before we decided we wanted to try to raise outside capital for any kind of future developments. That was kind of, so that's what we did. We just kind of rolled with it and went on, and it's been great. And, as a property owner yourself, that, maintenance costs and that kind of stuff can eat you alive on some of these rentals. And so having a 40 unit apartment complex or 90 unit apartment complex that you just built ground up, you got, 7 to 10 years, you don't have to worry about large maintenance costs. And so there's just so many added benefits to it. And then I like the front end side of being able to do the design and kind of picking the layouts and developing it and coming up with property names and figuring out how it works. That's really what I enjoy doing.
Right. And you got to figure that out during the process, because you could have done the single family and been like, okay, great, I'll stick with this forever. But you found something else that you enjoyed even more as you got into those types of projects, and something that you could scale easier, right? Like you're saying, not only, could you add, 50 to 100 units at once through a development, but the maintenance is less, and it's a property that you're going to be a little bit more excited about to hold long term. You just got to figure that out as you go. Can you take us into a little bit of where your company is at today? I know you've touched on it some, but what Two Guys does, what your full team and staff look like, and some of where what you're working on right now.
Yeah, absolutely. So we kind of look at ourselves as like the full circle real estate team, right? So Evan does retail sales. So he, if you just have a home you want to sell, Evan can sell it. If you're an investor doing fix and flips, Evan can sell it. Then if you're an investor like yourself and you need help with property management, we can manage your properties. And then we do the BRRRRs for, the rehabs. We do new build single family homes, and then we develop multifamily. So we look at it as kind of the full circle picture in real estate. We have sales, property management, buy and holds, fix and flips, and development. So we can help in kind of any facet of real estate that you want. We don't wholesale. That's one area that we're not wholesalers. We want to pay you to do that.
That's right. I'll keep that end of the.
That's not something that I don't have the patience for. That's not something I want to do. I want to pay you to make your money to do that for us. So, but that's kind of what we're looking at. And so now we've got a brick and mortar building here in town. That we've got a full office staff. We've got Evan on his sales side for himself, a couple sales agents, transitional coordinator. We've got a receptionist. We've got a project manager here in town. He's got a degree in architecture and an MBA, so he does a lot of our designs and blueprints and drawings, 3D renderings, all that kind of stuff. And then we have a project manager, and leasing agent, maintenance coordinator, and then like a runner that just does lock boxes and signs and runs errands and all that kind of stuff. So when I say all that out loud, that really puts us at 10 people, I think, is what's in our office now. And then for the field side, for the guys that do our burrs and, do our new builds and run the construction, we've got, somewhere around 30 to 35 that are our guys. And then we have subcontractors that work with us exclusively that are, there's probably another, 10 to 15 people that we use on a weekly basis as subcontractors. So, I mean, we're probably 50 employees, and then utilize another, 15 to maybe even 20 subs on a weekly basis. So there's a lot of moving parts and pieces to it. So, we're running usually 6 to 8 burrs on a monthly basis with somewhere around 2 to 4 new build. We're buying these lots in town and doing these new builds for rentals. So we're running those. But yeah, man, that's kind of where we're at now. It's crazy to think about.
It is. Like you said, when you say it out loud and you go through it all, that's a big operation. And because even the unit growth itself, right? What you're saying, 50 in a couple years, and then, a couple hundred after, even in the last four years or so. And more than that now with these storage units and apartments that you're doing. But that alone is impressive to see the growth of. But to me, the team is neat to see, because that's actually growing and establishing a business, a true company that has systems and processes that if you went off and, you were gone for a couple weeks, that everything's still going to be moving and functioning and things are going to be happening and not just come to a halt or a huge loss. Obviously, you're an integral part of it still, but can you speak into how you've gone about your hiring processes over the last few years, how you've been able to achieve such growth on the team, that side of things?
Yeah. Man, really, it's kind of been a weird process, because we started with it was just Evan and I, and Evan had some team members on his side. So we hired a friend of his to do property management in-house. That kind of backfired, didn't go super well. She left, and so we were kind of stuck with what do we do? Well, one of the girls from Evan's side decided to move over and kind of help us fill in on the property management. So we did that. She's done excellent, has really filled that role, has really helped a lot with the growth in that. And then a lot of the other positions, man, have been people that I have worked with, like have had relationships with it. Other, whatever, maybe my architect or maybe over here, that have kind of like seen what we're doing and have like, hey, this is exciting, and that we see the company growth and we see what you guys are doing, and we want to be a part of that. And so I've had a bunch of people reach out and say, hey, I'd like to talk about joining your team. And so we've done that, and then we've hired a couple through just like a staffing agency, and that has been phenomenal. And so really what I think Evan and I have done really well is that we've cultivated a culture here, and like a brand of the two guys, and our team, even out in the field, has bought into that. And that is where our real success comes from, is that our team all kind of aligns with the same goals and has the same ethics and sees the bigger picture and has bought into what we're doing here. And that's really what has allowed us to have the substantial growth. And so really, man, I mean, Evan and I pretty well. We're not your like sit down interview, 10 questions, where do you see yourself in 5 years kind of guys. A lot of it has been just like sit down with coffee and try to get to know each other. And are you a good fit? Are you going to fit into our culture? And with something we've, I haven't talked on yet, is we did implemented this like company operating system called EOS, Entrepreneurial Operating System. You probably heard of the book Traction by Geo Wickman. It's a kind of a system that helps you organize your company. So we implemented that probably about a year ago, and that has helped us, kind of like take all of our ideas and organize them, and then get the team on the same page, and to develop the and put in paper the core values and to be able to educate the team on where we're at. So we're real transparent with all that stuff. And so I think that's really helped a lot, but I don't know. I don't really have any like set ways on how we hire. It's just, they go, hey, we need to add this position. We just start talking to people, and if you're fit, you're fit. If you're not, you're not,
Right, right. I think there's a lot to that, even of just going out and making it happen, because even for myself, and I know others, you can get in your head about hiring of, is this, do I really need this right now? Maybe I can keep doing it, or is this person going to be the exact right fit? Versus like, look, we've got the business, coming in, we've got the growth going on. We need somebody here, even if it's not the perfect fit right off the bat, or trusting your instincts enough to be able to find that right person in an interview, just to go for it. And I think that's what's led to a lot of your success. And then once they're there, then like you're saying, going through and creating that company culture and truly walking them through how we want to grow as a company, what we're doing. That's such a big thing that I think you all have developed on, with where you're at today. What projects do you have going now, and that you are wanting to work towards? Because I know you're wanting to do more development. Does that mean storage units? I know you mentioned apartments. Is it going to be single family houses, or where do you see that going through the next several years here?
Yeah, sure. So currently right now what we've got, we have an apartment complex over off of East Cherry Street that we bought, that we're bulldozing a house and just adding another building. So it's just 10 additional units to add to that complex that's already there. So we've got that. We've got a 36-unit apartment complex on the south side of town over off of Scenic. That's a brand new development that we're doing. We have the storage units over on the south side, kind of Walnut Lawn. That the first phase is 188 units, the second phase is 80. The first phase just needs asphalt and fencing put in, and it's open. So I'm probably 3 to 4 weeks for that being open to the public. And then the second phase, we've already submitted building permits to the county. We're just waiting for approval so we can break ground on that. And then we had just bought some land over off of West Battlefield, kind of by Carver Middle School, that we're going to do a 90-unit ground up with an infinity swimming pool. It's going to have a rooftop with penthouses. Elevator will take you all the way up. It's going to be super cool, very high end. So we're in the design phase right now with the architect. We've already bought the land. We're just actually doing the design. That one's slated to break ground January of next year. And then we just closed on some land kind of over by OTC that we're going to go in and we're going to do basically rows of duplexes. So it'll be 24 units, a little gated community that we're working on. So, that's my next, 18, 24 months is pretty jam-packed with developments right now. Our kind of goal is I want to get more into like that 90 unit that I was telling you about on Battlefield. I'd like to do 2 of those a year. And so, to identify the land, do the land takedown, and then to work through the design, engineering, all that stuff. I mean, it takes like a year. It's a very slow process. So that's kind of the plan, is to just keep trying to find locations that make sense, whether it's multifamily or storage, and to just keep stacking those projects, back to back. So that's kind of what we've got now. We've got Cherry Street, which we're breaking ground on. It'll roll into Pacific, and then Holland Park will fall in between the two of those. And then by the time we kind of get all that done in January, we'll be breaking ground on the Battlefield project. And then still doing, 6 to 10 burrs and single family new builds, on a monthly basis. So we always have 6 to 10 of those going at a time. So, and so we want to grow that aspect, but then like on the property management side, that wasn't something that I was super like eager to grow and to want to be a part of. But what we've kind of figured out is that we're good at it. And we like to work with like-minded investors. And because we are investors and we have the construction crews and we have the staff, we've really cultivated a lot of really good relationships with other guys, and we're able to help them manage their portfolios. And, most of those investors have full-time jobs doing other things and don't want to have to do it. And so we've decided that we want to grow that side of the business as well, and just continue to grow that. So the goal is, keep stacking developments, keep adding single family to our portfolio, and to grow the property management side. So we're not really slowing down. We've switched gears a little bit because of market conditions right now, but we have no intention of slowing down.
No, I think it's really cool to hear just all the different things that you've got your hands in, even in different parts of real estate, not just development, but also on management and the single families as well. I've got to shout out the property behind you there, South Avenue. We're partners on that one, and I know it was maybe one of the earlier ones on in your when you were doing real estate development. Can you give a little bit of insight into that particular property, some of the struggles that we went through with it? Because I know it's quite the story on that place.
Yeah. So found that property on Zillow. I don't know if you remember that or not, but I found it listed on Zillow, and we negotiated and fairly significantly negotiated the price to purchase it. Bought it. It's we originally thought we were going to get, was 11 units in that main building. So there was like 3 in the basement, 4 on the main floor, 4 on the upstairs floor. And then the house next to it was, 4-bedroom with a mother-in-law's, and then 7 storage units behind it. So it's a 100-year-old old brick building. And yeah, man, the challenges for that property were, like I was telling you earlier, it's probably the hardest development that I've ever been a part of. We had vagrants that, broke out all the windows, so we had to replace that when we weren't planning on. We had them break in and steal all of the wiring in the main building, so 8 units. And, that was a massive insurance claim. And then when we finished the second building that's not seen in this photo, like we had just got granite countertops in, a woman broke in and caught it on fire. So we had to basically gut it all the way down, redo all the electrical, plumbing, HVAC, fix all the fire damage, redo the roof. So basically start completely over and redo that. We had material issues on the electrical side with getting meter stacks and meter banks and just all kinds of stuff. I mean, it was just, I from the aspect of like theft and vandalism and that kind of stuff, like by far the worst I've ever had to deal with. And I think a lot of that, it comes from location and history of that property. But now that it's done and stabilized, I think that'll be a property that we hopefully own for a lifetime. I think it's great. Like, we did the community a favor by fixing up that place.
Right. Definitely an improvement to the.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. And it's such a cool property. You're walking distance to downtown. You're on the Missouri State bus stop. Your south side location, all of the apartment complexes and real estate around there is all, new within a few years or been recently renovated. It's close to a park. In theory, you could walk to Missouri State from there. So it's really for an investment. It's an ideal location and property. There was just a lot of challenges with the rehab of it.
Right. No, I'm glad it's where it is today, and it's definitely come a long ways and turned out really good, I think. For sure, like you're mentioning some of these, the vandalism, the fire, catching on fire and theft, all of these things. How do you overcome obstacles like that? It obviously took a lot longer than we had expected. You handling a lot of the operations. You've got a lot of time there. How do you handle some of those issues that come up, whether it's this project or others personally? What do you do to overcome those obstacles and continue moving forward on projects?
Man, I just put your head down and work through it. I really feel like I got really lucky. I am not a guy that stresses a lot. We talk about that here in the office, because like I was just born with a gene where I just don't stress. I kind of look at things like kind of like a challenge. So it's like, hey, it is what it is. It happened. We're just gonna figure out a way to get it done and move through that. And I can tell you right now, if something bad could happen to your property, I have had it happen. We've had one where we bought and 4 days later the city bulldozed it. So that was we had private money lender on that lent us the money. So then we had to figure out how to raise the money back for that. We got stuck with a $19,000 demolition bill from the city. So we had to pay the city 19 grand to knock down our house that we were gonna renovate. But Evan and I we just came together. We figured out how to do it. We ended up building a new house on it, and then we flipped that house. And after everything was still said and done, we still made 20 grand. So it's just, I think a lot of it is that I don't. You take that phone call and you're like, okay, and you just kind of like, I don't freak out. And it's just like, okay, what do I got to do? I just got to fix it, man. You don't, when you and I are sitting here and as business owners and you've got, 50 families that are requiring on you to perform and you've got, maybe investors or private money or just bank notes or money that you've got in it, man, like you just can't lay down and die. You just have to work through it. So I don't really have a good answer. I mean, my answer's always just been, I don't have a choice but to fix it.
Yeah, you got to roll with the punches. Like, that as a business owner, they're going to come, there are going to be issues, and that's what we're in the business for. It's the high risk, high reward. Things are going to happen, and as the leader, you've got to be the one to stay face a lot of the time, because if you're over here having some sort of breakdown when things go wrong, or you're constantly stressed and complaining and telling the staff about it, that's only going to bleed down the line, and other people are going to be affected by it, versus understanding that, hey, this happened, this is now our current reality, let's take the steps forward needed to get this fixed and make of it what we can. And that I think is huge for a company culture and for just getting things done and not dwelling on an issue property, but knowing that that's going to happen.
100%. I mean, that's just always, I think, has always kind of been my personality. And I'm not saying I don't get stressed, don't get me wrong, but I think that helps me a lot, that I'm able to, like you said, just stay calm, and it's just like, just take the punches and roll on. I mean, that's what this business is all about. It's just like you said, rolling with the punches. So, and really with a lot of that, I think that's because we faced a lot of that, we've learned a lot and we've grown a lot, and we have true experience as real estate investors. So when we're trying to, build banking relationships and build relationships with investors, it's like, to tell people like, hey, we did $1 million student housing development downtown where they burnt our house down, they stole our wiring, they broke our windows out, they stole our tools, they caught the place on fire. But at the end of the day, we finished the project. We stabilized the project. It cash flows. It's a great property, and then to say, well, we had one bulldozed, but, we paid our investor back. We paid the city back. We built the house, and we were still profitable, so to be able to give those kind of like, hey, experiences through there, because, I mean, none of this, there's no science to any of this. And so it's like, it's just learning through experience. Like the house being bulldozed, honestly, was probably one of the best things that ever happened to us, because it made me get relationships with the city. It made me learn the dangerous buildings and blighted property thing, which we've now have bought a ton of those because other investors are afraid of them, and we know how to handle them. We know the people to talk to at the city. And so really, honestly, like, it was a blessing. And that sounds weird to say, but like, I'm not upset that happened. Like, I'm glad it happened, because it educated us and it taught us how to get through that, and then it opened the doors for lots of other properties and investments for us.
Right. Yeah, those failures have the best opportunity to become educational experiences. Like, you have to go through those, those trials and errors to figure out how to better your systems, how to better the deals that you're getting, your processes, versus, yeah, just again, waiting for the perfect deal or, whatever scenario to arise. Like you're just not going to learn the same things you can when you're getting down and dirty and you're going through projects. And that's going to happen when you're doing, hundreds of units in a few years. Like things are going to go wrong, but that's only going to make you better. And like I said, you'll have more confidence going forward and won't have to stress about these things because you've been there and done that. How do you, obviously, it's talking about stress and a lot of things that you got to juggle and work through. Like, how are you financing, all of these developments nowadays? Like, is this something that's changed from when you were doing single family? I mean, that alone is got to be a huge, almost weight that you're, dealing with and figuring out how we split this up.
Man, so when we first started our real estate careers, we were all strictly private money. So we had, we borrowed money from everybody that every other person probably listening to this has borrowed money from if they're, if they are big real estate investors. But where Evan and I kind of really were lucky is that we had some outside investors that just really good people that had money that didn't want to keep it in 401ks or in the stock market, liked what we were doing, trusted us. And so they invested, and we were able to negotiate a little bit better deals. So, when we were doing that at the height of it, I mean, we always had, probably $1.5 million out from private investors at a time. Now that we've got, kind of a history and banking relationships, we're all strictly credit line. So we use either our own capital or we use credit line from our banks or to purchase the houses. We actually don't have any private money at all at this time, which is great. It saves a lot of money on interest, and the credit lines allow us to still have the flexibility to purchase the houses like we want. And they kind of stepped in and took the role of that. And then on the multifamily, the bigger multifamily deals, we do have some outside investors that are basically just capital contributions for equity, and that has been great too. That's Evan and I still, have a large equity ownership. We get to manage them, we get to develop them, but we don't have to worry as much about the capital in the front end. And that's kind of a new thing for us, was to bring in investors like that, to buy equity into properties. So, and that's really just on a multifamily deal. So what's changed for us is that just being able to get a bank and or banks to trust us enough to give us the line of credits to do what we do.
Right. Yeah, and that comes with building up equity in properties over time, building up connections with those lenders, and also your credibility with working with other investors to loan and be equity partners on projects. That's just going to come with time. So yeah, that's definitely huge when you're improving that. For you personally, I'm kind of curious I'm sure it can be all over the place, but what do your day-to-days look like? Do you have habits that, you stick with, that, help you out with your success? What does that look like for you at this point?
Yeah, for sure. So I bought one of these Remarkable tablets. I don't know if you've ever seen this, but it's like it's supposed to feel like paper, but it's all digital. And so every night before I go to bed, I make my list of stuff I need to do for the next day. So I've always done that for, 10, 15 years. I've always been a list maker, right? That's always been a big thing for me. That's how I stay organized. And it also is kind of like, once I put it on the list, it kind of challenges me to, hey, I need to get this stuff done. And so I usually just bullet point the major items, like my major goals for the day. But then other than that, through the week, I get up every morning at 4:45. I go to the gym before I come to the office. I always come to the office typically first, so that way I'm here before the staff gets here, and you can kind of get the office open and get things rolling. And then, I always check emails, start out, check bank accounts, just kind of roll through that day-to-day stuff. and then I just start working through my to-do list, and then filter in any just any incoming issues or problems or things that I've got to do. And so that's kind of the my day-to-day activity stuff. And I do spend quite a bit of time in the field. I try to go to most of the projects on a daily basis, if not every other day. I want to work with the guys. I want them to see me in the field. I want to do that kind of stuff. So, I'm usually at the office by 6:30 to 7, and I usually am here till 5:30 or 6. I don't typically work weekends. I try to leave that time for home. I mean, I do billings on Sunday morning, so I get up, have breakfast, drink coffee, do my billings, answer emails. But I try to leave that weekend for family time and to not make the business overtake that aspect of it.
Yeah, I think that's great, because when you have that weekend time and time that you don't really touch, that you're able to recover and enjoy, it's only going to, I think, from my experience as well, make you work that much harder during the week. This is the time that you've got, your habits set up. I'm going to get here early, work a full day, get things done, and feel refreshed for that, and be a good example again and leader in the company of, hey, I'm starting my day early with these solid habits, working out. I'm getting here, opening things up. They can see me doing this in the field. All of that, it trickles down into everybody being excited about it and being willing to work hard and really get you to the goals that you've got, because you got some big goals and you've got to have the habits and life set up to get there.
Yeah, well, you do, and it's also, it's just like I think it's important to have the balance, to be disciplined and have the goals and to have the balanced work and family life, and so but it does set people know that, hey, you're the first one there, you're the last one to leave, you're going to work, you answer emails, you're putting in the effort. I am definitely not a passive leader. I am here in the trenches with the team every day, and that's what I like. That's how I think I'll always be. As we grow, I think that's how we'll always operate.
Yeah, it goes a long way. Well, tell me this, as we kind of wind down here a little bit. Where do you see your company, you all, here in about 5 years or even 10 years? Like, what are some longer term goals of where Two Guys is going?
Sure. So kind of immediate goal, my long-term goal, man, is I want to create large network, generational wealth. I want to change my family, I don't want to say pedigree, the family tree to say, and so my parents were absolutely fabulous. They were, my dad had a super rare eye disease. Mom didn't have the greatest childhood, never made a whole lot of money, but they did everything they possibly could for me and have really stepped it up. I was the first one to graduate college in our family, and so they've kind of set me up to be successful, and I want to do that. So I have some very ambitious goals. End of 2024, my goal is to be around 100 million in assets. That's the goal. I don't know if that's possible. We've got a pretty outline on how to get there, but it's still made. You got to buy a lot of deals. You got to develop a lot of stuff to hit that. So that's kind of goal for the next 2 years is to get to around 100 million. Other than that, man, it's just stack real estate, just to build to, I don't know if there's an X number. When we first started this, it was like, well, let's get to 1,000 doors. And then it was like, well, let's get to 100 million, and I mean, you could say, well, let's get to $1 billion. But I mean, I don't know. I don't know what that magical number is. I enjoy what I do. I want to continue to grow. I want to double the size of the company. I want to have a legit business. Like in our realm, there's a lot of real estate investors, right? Fly by night guys that maybe don't own anything. Like, I want to have a company that is financially sound, that offers, has really good benefits for their employees, that like people want to come here to work. Like I want to create a business that has roots into this community that I think I want that more than I want to say I've got $100 million in real estate. Like that's cool. $100 million will take my family a long ways down the road, but I want to have a business, man, that is strong and that is rooted in the community, and that our employees are happy, that they're able to have good home lives. They're financially stable, they're healthy, they're happy, that's really what I want more than anything. So those are some of the goals that we're working towards. And to make that happen, you've got to buy a lot of real estate. You got to have income, you got to make money for that to happen.
Absolutely. I think it's so cool because you got started in this to do it almost as a secondary investment for long-term wealth, for something that you'll have down the road that you can, make some cash flow on, that you can, build wealth with. And then it transitions into full-time. And then now, not only are you growing a company, you're growing multiple companies, within this, and you're doing it, like you're saying, for the benefit of your employees, the people on your team, for the community, and in something that's actually a legitimate business, that's operational, that maybe at a certain point growing on its own even. And yeah, you get to affect and help the lives of all those involved. On top of, you're stacking up and adding a lot of real estate with it. And I think it's such a win.
I agree. Well, and it's enjoyable, man. I mean, I guess what I keep going back to is it's enjoyable. I like what I do. There's never a day where I'm like, oh crap, I got to go to the office, And so it's like, there's a lot of times, where I think, I wake up and I think like, oh, maybe today is stressful or whatever. But then I think it's like, man, I'm working for myself. Like I'm out here building this stuff. I'm doing this. Like I don't have anybody to answer to. Like I don't have any of this. And I think that kind of like brings me back down to like, hey, I am lucky. Like I don't have to punch that time card. I don't have to answer to people. I don't have to do that stuff. And there's a huge benefit to that, and I'm doing what I enjoy doing.
Right. When it definitely goes for me as well. I know that when I'm coming in, waking up early, coming into the office, working, that I'm building something, I'm building my company, I'm building my business, my real estate portfolio, whatever it is. And there's definitely something to that, not only do I enjoy the conversations, the day to day, but on top of that, it's something that's going to last. And that is, for myself and my team. And that goes a long way as well, knowing that, it's yours and it can benefit your city, benefit the people involved.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, very awesome. Well, hey, Josh, great conversation as always. I love hearing about your growth in these last few years and where you guys are going to be going moving forward here. So thank you so much for taking the time to come on the Growth Circle podcast. All right, everybody. Well, thank you for tuning in again. We will see you on the next one.